talk with people about leaping from the job I had for such a long time as a national news anchor on public radio, I'm pretty sure a lot of them look at me and think, there's something wrong with her. She's gone around the bend. This is not how things are done. This is not how we do things. Because I was one of those people who checked off all the boxes. I checked off all the boxes that tell you that you've had a great life, that you've been a success in your life. So I checked off the college box, got a great job out of college, got another fabulous job after that, got married, bought a house, put a couple of adorable dogs in the backyard, had nice parties and nice things. The only box I did not check off by choice was children. And as part of all that, I was lucky enough to check off the box that said dream job. I spent the better part of 2 decades as a journalist in public radio. And this is the job that I wanted right out of college. I always wanted to be famous on the radio. And at age 32, I got it. I became an anchor at a program called Marketplace. It's a business and economics show. Heard by some 9 million people across the country, and I hope you all pledge to your local station. I'll give you a tote bag. And I loved this job. I could not believe that I got to go here every day and do this. It was a job that was made for me. I felt more at home behind the microphone than anywhere else in the world. But about 3 years ago, I decided I needed to go. And without going into the details, no one leaves their dream job if everything is hunky-dory at the office. So I had to go. Now, I was pretty close to the top of my career ladder. And so I figured I had 2 options. I could either step down a rung or 2, but I knew myself well enough that I probably wasn't going to be happy if I did that. So I figured my second option was to find a new ladder for myself, step over to something entirely different. I'd probably have to start at the bottom or close to it. That was all right. But the problem is when you're at the pinnacle, you don't spend a lot of time thinking about what else you want to do. So I looked over there, and I couldn't see what ladder I would even want to try it again on. So I did not climb down a rung, and I did not move over. Instead, I did the unthinkable. I stepped off. I left my job without anything else lined up. I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I left. That linear upward trajectory we're all supposed to be on, that was gone. So I did what any good journalist would do, and I went into business for myself, and in my industry, we call that freelancing. And a few months into this leap, that I call it from my career, I was invited to give a talk at an event called the World Domination Summit. And in this talk, I told everyone how difficult this journey had been already. This was not the follow your passion and the riches will come speech that I gave, because that's not how it happens. That's not how this works. It is not easy. It is really, really hard. And I told my truth in all its beauty and its ugly. And unbeknownst to me, an executive editor from a major publishing house was in the audience, and 11 days later, I had a book deal. This does not happen to people. So for the last couple of years, I've been writing and editing and marketing this book. It's called Leap, Leaving a Job with No Plan B to Find the Career in Life You Really Want. So I've found that, right? Kind of. What the book really allowed me to do was to take the time and gather the headspace for myself, to think about what was really going on with me. And I'll tell you, the first question people always ask me about this is, what about the money? What about the money? Don't you worry about the money? Maybe it's because I was in personal finance for 6 years. But my response to them is, all right, sure, you got to deal with the money. But money is money. The much more difficult part of all this for me was the psychological and emotional toll of no longer having an identity, because I identified myself entirely with what I did for a living. And so when I didn't have that, when I didn't have that traditional job, that traditional career, that path that we're all supposed to be on, I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know where my value came from anymore. I didn't know what made me special outside of the work that I did. So while I'm writing the book, I also kept going back to radio because I couldn't help myself. I would go back and I would backup host, I would fill in host at all kinds of shows. And every time I went back, I would have this pang of, it was kind of like, you know, if you're going to see someone for the first time that you haven't seen in a really long time, and you ask yourself, is it going to be the same? Is it going to feel the same? Am I still going to love it as much as I did? And for me, the answer was absolutely yes. I was so happy to be back behind that microphone again. It was where I belong. But there was pleasure and pain in going back. Pleasure because I was in the seat that I loved more than any other seat in the world. But pain because I knew it was temporary and I was going to have to leave. So while I'm writing the book and I'm going back into radio every once in a while, I'm still trying to figure out what the next step is going to be for me. Am I going to do a big career transition? This is a buzz phrase these days. Career transition. Go do something entirely new. It'll be great. What am I going to do? The answer that I came up with, at least for the moment, was I'm going to do a bunch of different things. I'm going to do a bunch of different things. So I'm going to try something new over here. And if it doesn't work out, I'm just going to move on. And I'm going to try something new over here. And if it works out, fabulous. I get to do something new. I have a new challenge for myself, and that's fantastic. And one of the people that I talked to for my book called this an Etch A Sketch career path. So you have some linear lines, you have a few curves in there, and then every once in a while, when you're ready, when it's time for you, you shake it up, and you start with a blank slate. You start all over again. So this all sounds well and good, right? Okay, so I'm an author, and I've been teaching myself photography, and I've been using the skills that I already have in new and different ways. Yay me! I figured it out. I got an Etch A Sketch career. It's all good. Yeah, except through all of this, I still had this enormous feeling of being untethered. And I kept asking myself, why are you putting yourself through this? Why not just go back to what you know? Just go get a freaking job. You're really good at it. You know exactly what you're doing. Somebody's going to hire you. It would be so much easier to go back to what you know. So much easier. But a funny thing happened along the way. The longer I was away from what I was supposed to be doing, the more I kind of started to like that feeling of being untethered. I enjoyed the freedom. I started to feel almost like a helium balloon. Not that I'm full of hot air. But every time I see, like you're at a child's party and you see someone holding a whole bunch of helium balloons, all I notice is that string pulled really taut, and all those balloons want to do is go. They just want to go. And that's how I started to feel. So earlier this year, when I finished the book, I started asking myself, all right, you got to figure this out. You got to do something. And around that same time, I took a trip to Peru with my father and a medical team from Oregon that went deep into the Andes to provide services for a population that really has no modern medical care at all. And what I saw there, what changed my life, was this joy in people who, by our standards, by any standards, have nothing. They have nothing. And all of a sudden, all I wanted to do was figure out why, to explore why. Where does that come from? What is that? Why don't we have that? So I am rearranging my life to make it possible to explore the why. That Etch A Sketch, I'm shaking it on everything, not just my career. All those boxes I checked off so dutifully and happily at the time, they're all coming unchecked. I unchecked the career box. I am at this moment in the process of unchecking the home ownership box, and yes, the marriage box. This is not how my life was supposed to go. This is not how it's supposed to be. But I am done with supposed to. So, in 4 weeks, I am leaving this country, and I do not know when I'm coming back. I have a one-way ticket to Southeast Asia, where I want to spend some time with people who've lived under the same moon as I have my whole life, but who could not have lives more different than mine, more different than yours. I want to tell stories that no one else is telling. Because if I've learned nothing else over the last 3 years, it's that I love telling stories. I have no idea how this is all going to work out. I don't even know where I'm going to go after that first stop when I get there. But I've spent the last 3 years without a plan, and it's worked out pretty well. And so I don't really want to have much of one going forward. What's next? I only have the broadest outlines. And for the most part, the answer is I don't know. I don't know what's next. But what I've discovered is that I don't know is the signal that the adventure is about to begin, that the next great human story is about to be found. So the next time you see one of those balloons untethered up there, notice also how buoyant it is, how much joy it contains. Because that balloon up there, that's me. Thank you.